Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, I have an incredible privilege to have Denise Mira on with me to talk about not only her passion, who she is and what she does, but also what she is going to be delivering at Freemen Forge 2023. Denise, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us. Denise is, and I want to read off this list because there's so many things. I want to get this right. Not only has Denise been married 42 years to one man, she's a veteran home educator. She's a pioneer and advocate. This woman was doing this stuff before it was cool. And honestly, when a lot of people were trying to talk her out of doing it, I know, by the way, because this is my mom, and it's an incredible privilege to not only have her here, but also have her deliver just the insane level of value I know she's going to deliver to the men at that event. She is a mother of 5 sons, a grandmother of 6, public speaker, by the way, a powerful public speaker. She is a coach. She helps people grow their businesses, specifically women, helps them grow their businesses online. It's an incredible gift that she's got. She is an author of a book called No Ordinary Child, Unlocking the Leader Within Your Child. And she's also a contributor to many other publications. Mom, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time. And just while I have you here to really talk about the event that's coming up next month. I would encourage you guys to go follow her on her socials, go follow Denise. And could you actually, when you get a chance, where can people find you on Instagram specifically?
Yes. Now, actually, denisemira.com is great because there's a little tab to email me, to sign up for stuff. My socials are on there as well. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Denise Mira Parenting on YouTube. I'm on Facebook as Denise Mira Author Speaker. So it's pretty easy to find me once you get to my website, denisemira.com.
Love it. So if you're watching right now, pause this, go find Denise, go follow her stuff, and then you can continue the rest of this. But trust me, there is insane value there. You're the only woman on this entire staff. So if anybody watching right now, go to freemanforge.com, you go and scroll down to our staff, teachers, coaches, and speakers. You're going to see one woman on that list, and that is Denise. And there's a very specific reason for that. And it's that with this event being strictly for men, I thought it was really important for a woman to come in and slap them around really good, because I'll tell you right now, there are many men who have said to me personally, you have no idea how much Denise has changed my perspective and changed my family dynamic through helping me understand the value in my children, how to properly parent them, and how to invest in them for the future. And so if you could, before we even dive into what you'll be sharing on, I know that'll be a little bit of it, but tell me a little bit about your background. If you could give us, a 5-minute snapshot. Who was Denise? Where was she born? How was she raised? And when did that switch take place in you where you went, I'm not just raising a family. I'm not just a homemaker. I'm creating warlords. I'm shaping the future, and I'm writing history with what I'm doing.
Wow. Well, thank you, Gabriel. I am so honored to be here. I was raised in Omaha, Nebraska. I was public school educated by 2 conservative parents who stayed married, even to today, who were faithful and committed to me and my 3 siblings. But I had everything. And I don't know if you out there felt like you had everything, but there was an emptiness inside of you. And I would lay in bed at night and I wouldn't count my blessings. I was seeking for more, longing for more, and through a series of events came to know the Lord. And that was like such a miracle. My parents honored the name of God, but they did not lead me into faith life. We didn't attend a church. And so they did the best they could, but I had a vibrant youth group near me, like 350 kids every Wednesday night. And thankfully I ran over there to find out what was going on. And I found the Lord. And everything that you see in me is a result of that. Absolutely 100%, because I didn't have a clue. I was young and single and stupid, and I was on the path of feminism. I didn't want kids. I never wanted to get married. I wanted to have a briefcase, a big fat income, a sports car, and a mansion. All right. And so that was disrupted when I was 17. And so that was super cool. And then I won a trip to go anywhere in the world, and I chose Mexico. I could have driven there, but at the end of the day, God put me in a house nobody could speak English, and kept me in misery until I really made peace with God, totally came back a new person. And so everything changed. And thankfully, because the DNA of the church I attended was more of a, it was more of a boot camp for Jesus. It was, he is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he can never lose. We were discipled. We were mentored. We were in the presence of spiritual giants who weren't giants. You wouldn't know their names perhaps, but in God, men and women of prayer, and serious, sincere, authentic believers. And out of that youth group, so interesting, so many of the people that I hung out with are leading churches and ministries and all sorts of things across the earth. So I was really blessed to be in that. And it reminds me so much, Gabriel, of what you're building here, the movement of Freemen Forge. It's a new day. It's a new time. It's a new generation. And God's doing new things, because the old things, it's that old bread. We need fresh manna. And as I see what you're doing, you're providing a place where men can gather and the DNA can be transferred. That is so powerful. I wasn't just attending church online. I wasn't just, reading a book. I was with people who that drip down of their DNA has changed the trajectory of my entire life. I have 5 sons. I have all the things that Gabriel read. That is totally a result of me being able to leverage all that was in those people who were serving God. So that's really how it all happened. And then, of course, you're in a church. You're seeing lots of little babies. God began to melt my heart. Oh, I know. I was never getting married, and 6 months out of high school, I met and married Gregory, my big.
I actually have a question around this. I'm
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you, but so you were this raging feminist.
Yes.
And wanted all the feminist things, which it's not that you don't want a man. Within feminism, you want a man who you can control, tell what to do. And you're a very strong personality, obviously. I think that it takes the right type of man to lead that type of woman, and you're clearly a firecracker with tons of energy. What do you think was the changing point? Obviously, you got saved. You found Jesus Christ, and he changed you from the inside out. But where do you think that change took place, where you went from, I don't want a strong man, to I'm valuing and marrying Greg? A strong man doesn't even begin to cover it. But then also, it's very interesting that God also gave you 5 sons. And actually, me and my the 3 oldest boys in the family, we all had girl names and boy names as options before we were born. And then I think after the 3rd, you just didn't even bother coming up with girl names for the last 2. You knew they were going to be boys. But God took you from this place of extreme feminism and going, I don't want the strong man, to not only am I following a strong man and supporting him in the helper role, by the way, understanding your role in that is something we've been talking about a lot over the past couple of weeks on a lot of podcasts, is how women and men, we are not equals. We're not supposed to be equals. The woman is supposed to be the helper to the man's mission. Not that the woman can't have incredible impact, but you as a very strong woman you've been willing to play your role as the helper and as the supporter, but you've been so impactful in what he's done with his life. But then God gives you men to shape. Talk to me about that for a minute, because I think that's one of the most powerful reasons for you to be at this event sharing is your knowledge of raising independent, sovereign sons.
Wow. Well, I think even in feminism, if you really boil it down, every woman wants to be led by a strong man. She just doesn't know it yet. There aren't a lot of strong men out there. Matter of fact, when I wrote my book, a Christian college, one of the leaders called me and said, there are no strong men here. How did you do this? Where are they? And that is a sad story about what's going on in the religious world. But at the end of the day, I remember, and I say this to your dad, he's a handsome hunk, my hunk of hunger burning love, but I was not drawn to him because he was attractive. I know that sounds bizarre. I was drawn to him because I saw strength I don't even know how to describe it. You just see it. It's a presence. It's a standard. It's a steel backbone and a forehead of flint, an immovable man. He's had to be that for what we've been called to. And, you know, he's my hero. And so that's the only way I know how to describe it. I remember after I really gave my life to God, and as I said, this wasn't playing church. This wasn't church with Sundays. This was real discipleship. I remember the Word of God says that he shows us things to come. And I remember thinking my next boyfriend is going to be my husband. And I had determined I wasn't dating anymore. I wanted my husband. And before I knew it, he walked past me. And that's how it happened. It was in essence a supernatural thing that God just knew. And he, you know, he was about, I think he's somewhere around 9-10 years older than me. And he was ready to be married. And that was it. I was married 6 months out of high school. And then I think it took a few years, and then my heart really warmed up to having children. And it was, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. and it was awesome.
Around following your husband, there's one clear thing. I think a big thing that needs to be cleared up, at least about leading and following, is, and I love watching this with you, and I just want to ask you, just so you can speak about it on your own. I don't see you as having to, when you talk about it this way, it doesn't paint a picture that you are just, oh, submitting because he's the man, but that he is leading with such strength, but that you have no choice but to be drawn to follow. It's almost like a gravitational pull, how a planet, the bigger the planet or the bigger the, you know, bigger the item, the bigger gravitational pull that it's got. Would you say that your ability to follow and your ability to play your role as a helper, do you think that was in large part because he led with such strength that you were compelled to follow and help on that journey?
Well, I think because our values were the same, and this is what I see in the world, or people are choosing people because they're pretty or they're rich or you're doomed from the start. You've got to be yoked together for a purpose. I don't care if that's business. I don't care what that, but our values matched. And so that's what drew us together, the strength and the values. And then because I trusted him and we were going the same direction, our vision was to change the world, to build the kingdom, to have a gargantuan Grand Canyon impact in the earth. And so it's a whole lot easier if your values are the same. And marriage is the hardest thing you'll ever do, I think. You're taking two foreigners, in essence, putting them together with all the baggage they bring generationally, and God's just like, okay, work it out. And so we were devoted, we were committed till death do us part. That's another thing. This wasn't just goosebumps, but my husband took his spiritual mantle seriously. He took his leadership seriously. He took his calling seriously, and I respected that. Now I have to say that even as a submissive wife, it's a partnership. We make each other better. I whisper in his ear, he whispers in my ear. It's iron sharpening iron. I really believe that with all my heart, but in the right spirit. But it's battle. Marriage is battle because it's the most important relationship on the planet, because out of that, and it's supposed to reflect the Lord and his church, out of that become the offspring, you guys, you 5 strong men. And I knew my relationship to my husband and my posture toward him and my respect and honor of him and other men in our leadership team, in our lives, that was going to trickle down to you guys. And that was vital. And I think so many women are out there trashing their husbands, contempt, disdain. The energy is so evident. And they don't realize they're cursing themselves, they're cursing their children, the next generation. And before you know it, and they think they can just freely divorce, and they're going to, you know, they're so attractive, they're going to get the next guy. How many women do we know out there who ran roughshod over their marriage, contempt for their man, because every man is imperfect. If you're sitting there and you're a woman and you're like, yeah, well, if you're married to a giant, let me tell you what, all giants, at the end of the day, it's a universal issue that we're human and we have sin and we have brokenness and we are imperfect human beings, but we build each other up and we stand by each other and we love covers a multitude of sin, and we ride through those tough times, believing and praying and confessing and trusting God. Marriage has become a legal contract, not even binding, just, you know, a toss away. And so, yeah, so I really felt the fear of God was in me. Let's say that. Fear of God.
No, that's fantastic answer, and I think it's important. I can't wait for you to share a little bit about this at Freemen Forge, just simply because men need to understand what they need to have and the type of partner that they need to choose, and how to walk that out in the right way. And so that's going to be so incredible to hear about. But I also think that the deeper reason is really because this event is encouraging men to go shape the world. And the number one way they can do that is through fathering. My opinion on it is, when I talk to men, as I say, we all have a different destiny or a different mission. But the reality is, I believe all men have the same purpose. And that purpose is to father others. It doesn't even mean biologically necessarily, but it's to help raise the next generation or help the people behind you move forward. And you alluded to that. You started to see the value of children. You didn't want kids, feminism, you find a man, then you start to warm up to the idea of children. But if anybody was to read your books or listen to you speak now, they'd go, there's no way that woman came from this place, because of the incredible love that you have for your children, and not just in an emotional sense, but the sacrifices you have made over the course of 40 years almost of parenting. When did it really snap for you to go, oh my goodness, my children are the best investment that I can make. I need to raise these men to be strong men, strong leaders that do not fit in. You were a homeschool pioneer. I remember people ostracizing you for wanting to home educate when you began, and how all through the years it was hard to find resources, and people were like, you guys are crazy, just send them to school. Talk to me about that, because I want this to be delivered to men there. Men are going to walk out of this experience not just being hyped to go, yeah, I need to homeschool. They're going to walk out going, I know exactly what to do when I leave here, how to invest in my children in the right way, how to pull them out of the public school system, although we're not just limiting you to talking about home education. It's a part of it in recognizing that your children are the future.
Well, let me say that once again, it goes back to the Word of God, but it also goes back to exactly what you're building, Gabriel, is a group of humans together with the DNA mixing. And I crossed paths with two specific families that I can think of right now that shifted the way I think, because here's what people need. They need a revelation. Okay. A revelation reveals, it shows you something you have never seen. You know, when you've maybe read a book, or you've come across a product, or you've heard someone share, or you walked into a meeting accidentally, it jarred you, and you were never the same. That's a revelation. That's what a revelation will do. It will keep you up at night under the covers with a flashlight reading books till 2 a.m. A revelation shifts everything. Yeah. And so that revelation suddenly came to me, like I was living down here. And my kids, I was living so low when I could be expecting so much more. I was stumbling in the dark. I was public school educated. I wasn't trained to raise children. I was trained to drop children off at the next door and the next door and the next door, just like this generation. It starts with Head Start and goes to college. And so my mindset needed to be shifted. And that's a huge thing that happens when you're around the right people. That's why it's so vital that you are in an immersive situation with human beings who have revelation you don't have, because you're going to catch it. And it is a contagion that will shift your universe and up level everything. And I began then to see my kids through different eyes. My lenses changed. I had these new lenses, these revelation lenses. And I read in the scriptures where Amram and Jochebed were in, they were going through it. I mean, we thought shutdowns and COVID were difficult. These people, it was declared that all babies under the age of 2 were going to be drowned in the Nile. And this couple finds themselves pregnant. And as I was reading these stories to my children, it's all back to the Word of God. The problem is so many believers don't really believe. It's as if they're just doing church. But when I read the Word of God, it spoke to me. And it said that Amram and Jochebed hid that baby because they saw that he was no ordinary child. He was not normal. He was not typical. He was not, they saw with new eyes, and I saw with new eyes. And then I began to hide and protect these children. And that was my passion. And then crossing paths again, when you get a revelation, maybe you get a revelation that you're going to buy an RV, right? And pretty soon you see RVs everywhere, and somebody comes up and, sells you. It's just, when you get a revelation, everything changes. And somebody crossed my paths, and their child was exceptional. And I thought, what is this strange being that can talk and look me in the eye and act like an adult and be so smart? And they homeschooled, and that was the next crumb. And so it is a process of being led by the Lord and taking massive action on the revelation that comes to us. And that's what I'm excited about. Anybody that is going to attend this, whether you are single, whether you are married, whether you are childless, whether you're a grandpa, there is going to be a revelation that comes to you at this Freemen Forge. Revelation through what I share. I'm going to give you tools. I'm going to put things in your hand. That day, everything changes. Everything changes, even if nothing's different in the natural that day, because I'm going to hand you tools. Success leaves clues. Okay.
Yes.
The kind of people that Gabriel has gathered for Freemen Forge, it is actually blowing my mind that it is so cheap to attend this thing right now, because this is easily worth no less than 5 figures. I can't even comprehend it. But these people have become successful, not because they were born with a silver spoon, but because they fought the fight, personal development. They became what they had to become so they could be what they need to be for you. And when you're there, you're going to get so much revelation, and that success is going to give you clues. You're going to receive something you can't receive just through a book or a video. There are nuances as you are in the room, in the presence of these people that have fought the good fight. And the ground I stand on is to help parents. This is my mission statement, is to empower parents to raise extraordinary children. Extraordinary. Now, my vision is strong families throughout successive generations. I help parents to do that, to develop that limitless potential in their children through revolutionary Bible teaching, because that's the revolution. Tell me one person that has what you want. I mean, really down to behind the scenes, behind the mini blinds, behind where you can't. Tell me one person who has everything you want that isn't anchored to Christ. I challenge you. All the others are glittering, glitter that passes. How many times has that celebrity been married? How many felonies does that sports star have? How much brokenness? No, everything that I have to share from you is the foundation of revolutionary Bible teaching, because Jesus came to change the world, change our lives, and that's what's changed my life. And so
incredible. No, incredible. And I can't wait for you to share more. I know we need to wrap up here, but I can't wait to just see the impact that you bring. I can't wait to see the light bulbs go off in people's heads. And look, if you are a woman who's got a man who you think needs to be at this, who needs to hear what Denise has to share, you need to get your guy there. Men, if you are struggling to have vision for how powerful your children can be and how much they can impact and change the world, you need to be here to hear this. And so make sure you get over to freemanforge.com, that you get registered. I know Denise has a discount code. There are podcasts with discount codes. There are group discount codes. We even have church group discount codes. And so there are ways to get in here, but it's not about the discount. It's about the investment. Make sure you get there. Make sure you walk out with the tools to know how immediately when you walk away, what do I do next to invest in my children in a greater way, to remove them from the babysitting that is the public school system and the brainwashing that it is, and learn to create world changers. And I love to always point out the fact that you've got 5 sons. All of us were home educated.
Yeah.
All of us had scholarship offers of some sort. All of us are entrepreneurs. There isn't a single one of us that is not out there creating our own income, having our own families with multiple kids, and there's not a single one of us that is not home educating their children with a stay-at-home mother.
Yeah.
That comes from someplace. You know what I'm saying? It's like it'd be different if like 2 out of 5, all 5 of them. That is 100% success rate.
Wow. Well,
And
the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding, and there are women sitting there watching right now, and you're bitter, and I get it, because your husband's cracking the whip. Oh, you'll never homeschool. You can't even be home. You got to bring in that income. You got to bring in that income. Your kids are out of control. There's chaos in your home. You'd rather drop them off because it's chaos. Let me tell you, I know you don't want to send him on a little vacation. I know. I get that. That's all you can see right now through your pain. But if you will just open your heart to believe that this is a divine opportunity, a window, a moment that's going to pass, that you've got to seize and send that man off on this. He will never be the same. This will be an investment in you, mom, in you, wife, and see, everything can change, but it's going to take a shift. It's going to take you betting on your man. It's going to take you, sir, betting on yourself. You'll invest in tattoos. You'll invest in purebred dogs. You'll invest in private education. You'll invest in a new car. You'll invest in that extra mortgage payment for that bigger house. I am just saying, just this little bitty amount, if you will just have faith as a mustard seed, just this little, right around $2,000, and there's lots of discount codes. If you'll just invest that mustard seed, I'm telling you, I'm promising you, I'm guaranteeing you that nothing will be the same if you go with an open heart. And women, I just want to say, I feel your pain. I see you out there. God sees you. He hears your cry, and this is for your man. I cannot imagine one man who this would not shift the universe for. And if all that did, one big fat weekend, if all it did was up level your marriage, what would take that depressed teenager from your house and melt his icy cold heart and change the way he is, if all this did was save you from toiling at a desk in a cubicle for the next 30 years of your life, if all this did was lift the level of your income by at least 5 figures this year, if that's all this did, would it be worth it?
No, that's amazing. That's
Open your heart. Open your
incredible. Absolutely incredible. And it's going to be an incredibly impactful time. And if we win the men, I think that's the important part to understand. If we win the men, we win the world, because men are the leaders of the family. Families are the creators of communities. Communities create societies. And so it is going to be incredible to have you there sharing in front of the entire group. It's going to be a privilege to have you. And also just, I mean, an incredible experience for me to be able to introduce my own mom on stage and have you really bring massive impact to their lives. So everybody listening, get to DeniseMira.com. You can find Denise on all of her socials. You can email her, get on her email list, find out what she's doing, not only with parenting, but also with business coaching and all sorts of other things that you offer. And get today over to FreemenForge.com. Get registered and get ready for the experience of a lifetime and the changing of your trajectory.
Let's
Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
See you in a couple of weeks.
Can't wait.